Hello and welcome to the Warp Shelf. I'm Frank Duran.
I'm Deshaun Vasquez.
We're two artists buried in books, movies, and
video games, all sorts of storytelling mediums,
all sorts of things. Reach into the pile and try to find what's worth taking back with you to your shelf. Today, we're doing more of the AFI top 100 American movies of
American
all time.
films, yeah.
Of all time. We had Ben-Hur as last week's episode. That's number 100. And we're on number 99 now. We're doing Toy Story. We're doing your childhood today. We're talking about some childhood trauma a little bit. A little bit. I also have two little of my Pocket Pop Funko keychains. I got Buzz Lightyear and Alien for the people watching the show. There they are. I love this movie. Yeah, I gotta say that right off the bat. I'm almost surprised it's not higher in the list. And I was pissed the other day when IGN was like, we're rating all the Pixar movies because Turning Red's out. And they put Toy Story 3 above Toy Story 1. And I was like one of those things where I was like, I see your conceit. 3 is more emotional. But if we're talking about pure idea, pure like consciousness, pure like art type of thing, and achievement in what is capable in filmmaking, Toy Story. One
can argue, like, as much as I love 3, a lot of it does rehash ideas from the second one.
Yes.
Which I've always leaned to. It's just like, I'd probably like rewatching the first one the most, but I find that 2 is probably the strongest.
2's great, and I think 3 is like, that's the thing. We're dealing with a solid trilogy here. Even 4. I'll say it right here. Yeah, I know a lot of people might disagree with me. I think 4 is great. I think I like 4.
4 was good. It wasn't necessary, but I'm not mad it happened.
No, that's the thing. It's like one of those things that they still put a lot of heart into it, so it still worked. It wasn't an Incredibles 2 where we were like, so that was it, right?
That was 15 years waiting for this,
right? It's just like
Incredibles 2 felt like the straight-to-video sequel we would have gotten like rushed out a year later,
right? It felt like a little bit Lion King 2 in a way, a little bit Aladdin.
Even Lion King 2 had something to say.
So Toy Story, right off. For historical basis, for people who, I'm sure you've seen Toy Story, but if you didn't know, it's the first movie to win an Oscar. And they call it the what do they call it here? It's on the back of the DVD. The first feature-length computer animated film, a special achievement Oscar that they gave to Toy Story here. So they were like, we're not going to give you best animated film,
which didn't exist yet.
Yeah, didn't exist yet.
Basically, not until After Beauty and the Beast was nominated for Best Picture, and the Academy was just like, never again.
Never again will they win Best Picture, even be in this category.
Get them cartoons out of here.
Because, we talked about it in the Oscar episode. We won't go into that more shit like that. But it's kind of interesting because it is hailed as the first feature film completely animated in computers.
Top to bottom.
Top to bottom. And it signals this huge change, not just for Pixar, but obviously for Disney, because Disney started going, oh man, you guys are awesome. Let's, you guys get everything.
What if we did that?
Yeah, they were like, what if we just bought you guys and then did what we take all that?
Yeah, I think it is an interesting thing to note that Pixar was not owned by Disney for a good while before they bought them out. Now you think of Pixar as synonymous with Disney. It's like one more branch of the great Disney fucking Lovecraftian demon that it's become. Tentacle. Yeah, like Cthulhu like tentacles.
But in reality, it was an Apple company that was, they were trying to be like, let's push this engine, let's make media, let's make film inside of this engine. John, is it
Lasseter?
Lasseter, thank you. I'm gonna mispronounce it. So Lasseter, I think you can't state enough his influence on animated movies.
No,
I don't think you can state enough how much this guy has changed, not only the face of animation, but also like literally how animation films are seen and done. It can't be stated that this guy who was just like, hey, maybe we can make a movie off this computer,
yeah. Whether or not that legacy has been tainted since then,
Yes.
is up to you.
Up to you.
But the fact remains.
The fact remains, the man made Toy Story. And there's a reason why in this AFI list, even though IGN thinks it's better, it's Toy Story on this list, not Toy Story 3. And there's a reason for that. I feel like you start watching this movie and you're like, they just pulled this out of the fucking ether, didn't they? Like, because every kid
just the public consciousness of like, what do the toys do when I'm not in the room?
Right? Exactly. Every kid has sort of imagined what did the toys do when I leave the room. So it's like they tapped into that in such a deep way and gave people, I said earlier, like complexes. It gives people complexes because they didn't even think about that maybe their toys had lives too. And it's like a lot of kids saw these at a young age and made people feel really guilty about their toys.
Oh yeah, the whole Sid scene in the climax is just like, I'm sure that like really fucked with kids.
Yeah, exactly.
And I kind of love it. End. I really love children's entertainment with a little bit of edge that try to scare the shit out of you.
Yes, I think it's important.
Toughen you up.
I think it's important. You gotta
see also most of Don Bluth's work.
But also, I think kids like to be scared. You know, like
I certainly
it's part
did.
of it. You know, like it's definitely part of it. It's like kids like to be scared, so it's like that's why they put these scary bits into movies. You know, when it feels like you're like, where the fuck did that come from?
Better there in a controlled environment to get you ready for the real world.
Yeah, because it's endless horror, kids. It's endless. No, we're not rated
Sweet
for
dreams.
kids. Our podcast is not rated for kids. We say fuck too often. But we're talking about Toy Story. No, but seriously, this is a piece of not only animation history but film history.
Yes,
absolutely.
it's
like, and I would have put this much higher in the AFI list. I think I've seen this movie. Like, oh my god, I can't even count, man.
So many times. It's definitely one of those. It's definitely one of those ones that I just had in every medium going forward.
Yeah.
From VHS to DVD, and then getting the Blu-ray on my own.
Right.
So even though having seen it a million times, it's just like I'm adult. I buy my own movies. I could still have this again.
I could still have this. I'll buy another copy. You're like, fuck it. And it's one of those things that Toy Story media was huge growing up because it wasn't only this movie. There was the game, the PS1 game, the Toy Story games, and then there was also the Green Army
the first
games, which were still from Disney.
The Toy Story 1 game wasn't great. The Toy Story 2 game was dope.
Pretty good. Pretty darn good. I did like that one. I did play the first one, though. I played it too
it was
much.
mostly
Probably
a side
more than I
scroll.
probably should have.
It wasn't all right.
It was
all
like,
right.
I do remember Bug's Life more than the Toy Story one.
The second one was smart because it's just like you play as Buzz in the real world, like going through shit, and everything is huge. It's so much fun. Yeah, pain in the ass sometimes though.
Definitely, and it's some of the things that like we were immersed in it because not only did they, I think that's the other genius thing about this is that they created basically a toy line here. That's the genius bit about this, like for Disney, you know, like they were like, haha, we made our own toys.
I don't know if you had the same experience, but I did have a Buzz Lightyear toy, but it would always piss me off because I could never find a toy that would actually do all the stuff that Buzz could do in the movie, and it would just upset me so much.
Like, oh my god, if like just give me a laser, just give
Where's
me
the laser? Why can't the visor come back? Why can't it do all? Why can't the wings expand? And it's just like, yeah, they kind of nailed that. Especially, I'm sure toys are much more advanced than Buzz Lightyear now, but back then when we were growing up, it was just one of those things like, yeah, that is the ultimate toy. Look at all this cool shit it could do. It could fly, it could shoot lasers.
He comes in a spaceship as a box, you know. Like,
and plus they're also playing to the fact of like the space age taking over the Western, and like we start to like move more into sci-fi and stuff. And Buzz Lightyear's origin, especially, is like very like Star Warsy on purpose.
And they're also playing it like, you know, kids go through phases. Yeah. You know, like that's a huge thing is to be like, you know, have a cowboy face, be really into trucks for a while, you know, like and then like kids, it can take a small thing like owning a Buzz Lightyear toy to make them sci-fi fans, you know, like, and it's like one of those things that like, kids go through phases, and I thought that was kind of an interesting thing that they were trying to like capture here is like these toys in crisis as their kid goes through a new phase. You know, like you're like, what?
It's just one of those things where like you want to give your parents credit trying to keep up with all this shit. Because I think about all the stuff that I was continuously into as a kid, just like Batman. Well, that never changed. Just like, oh, now I'm into Power Rangers. Now I'm into Digimon. Now I want this. Now I want that. And, you know, talking to my parents who were both born in 1973, they're like, what the fuck is a Pokemon?
Yeah, what the fuck? Yeah, exactly. It's like, I remember my mom is calling them Pokemans, and it's just like, no, Ma, they're not called Pokemans. They're Pokemon. Like, but like, it's funny. My mom was really into Toy Story too. My whole family was really into Toy Story. Yeah, it's first off, I think such a well-written movie. This is an extremely well-written movie. Not only because it like seems to take its idea from like the public consciousness, but the dialogue is snappy. Like fucking, it's like it's Josh Whedon and also a Cole brothers. Like one of the Cole brothers is one of the writers. Joel Cohen. And you're just like, so it's these two like legends, which I mean, you know, legends also have bad parts of their tales. Yeah, Josh Whedon.
The Coen brothers are fine thus far.
Thus far. Please don't be. Please just make art, guys. No, don't be weird.
Yeah, don't be weird about it.
Don't be weird.
But you can definitely tell, and there's more remnants here of like the Whedonisms than there is in some like other projects that he done where like it was rewritten so much that none of that DNA remains.
Yeah,
like Whedon did one of the drafts for the first X-Men movie, and there are certain bits where you're
like,
tell
Whedon.
That's a Whedonism, but so much of it is like buried under the redrafts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Here you're just like, no, I can feel the vibe.
Yeah, right. I know when he's there, you know, like, but it's so many great lines. Like, look, I'm Picasso. I don't get it. You uncultured swine. And then turns around and immediately, what you looking at, hockey puck? Like, and then just, it's so good. It's like constant.
I never knew how much of a Don Rickles fan I would become having the first exposure to him through Toy Story. And then once I got older, looking at his stand-up and like all the other stuff has been in, like Don Rickles is actually one of my faves.
I think that's another reason why this is one of the greatest movies ever made. I think that's why this is on this list, you know, obviously, is the cast. Not only is it a computer animated film done really well, animated to feel like their performances got across.
Yeah.
But also just the cast is kind of astounding. It's stacked. Up to the brims here, because of course you have Tom Hanks, you have you have Tim Allen, but like but you also got like, you know, you were already saying Don Rickles,
John Ratzenberger,
and
you would later get stuff like
you got Jim Varney as the Slinky Dog, Amy Potts, like it's. And of course, R. Lee Emery
as the drill sergeant.
I love that. That's one of my favorite little like.
That's like one of the things like he really leaned into that. Yeah. Everyone started typecasting him as that after Full Metal Jacket, but he's just like, sure,
I'll do that. You pay me to be myself, okay? You know, like, so it's kind of it's a really stacked cast, and that's why it's important in the future installments.
And Wallace Shawn, of course.
Yeah. Yes, Wallace Shawn. Oh my God.
Jim Varney. Yeah, so much.
Is that like that's what they had to do with Jesse and the Prospector and Newman as the toy collector. I'm good. I keep calling him by his character name, but Newman.
Wayne Knight.
Wayne Knight is brought in for Toy Story 2 and so many, and Jesse and
God, if you're going to typecast him, at least call him Dennis Nedry.
And then in Toy Story 3, they even amp it up even more with even more casts, you know, like
you have like Timothy Dalton voicing the little hedgehog and stuff like that.
You're like, holy smokes. And like
you have Christina Hendricks in the fourth one, like as the main villain or the antagonist rather.
Right. It's these big names that they bring in to be these anime characters, and it really
and it comes from a time where it feels like it's less about star pull and more about like these seem, even though they're big names, these seem like the best parts that we could cast, as opposed to a lot of like lesser tier animated films where it's just the star power to be like, it's just for parents to be like, I can tolerate it if Kevin Hart's in it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. They're like, I'll still laugh at a Kevin Hart joke, and you're just like, I am worried about DC Super Pets. I think it's gonna be funny, but I'm worried.
Secret Lights of Pets 3?
Yeah, I'm a little worried. I'm excited that they're doing it, but also I'm worried about about.
Yeah.
But besides the point, because that's not even the same studio, and it's kind of amazing the steps we've taken, because we keep bringing up Toy Story 3. But Toy Story 4 too, because I feel like Toy Story 4 was like even crazier pinnacle of animation. Is that this movie, when you go back to Toy Story, it doesn't look great now.
I think
it has a style. It has a style.
Yeah.
It's really it.
And I think a lot of it actually still looks great.
Yeah.
Until you see any of the humans.
Yep.
And the dog.
Yeah. You're like, oh gosh. But then you go to Toy Story 4 and they got the soft bokeh on Woody underneath the car, and the rain's going behind him, and you're like, damn, boys, we got really good at this, didn't we?
You have that whole like montage of like Andy growing up to when he eventually gives the toys away, and you're just like,
and I think that's it. Is that it not only did Toy Story grow up with us? I think that's a huge part of why I love Toy Story, is that like I was Andy's age seeing this, like I was, and then Toy Story 2 came out, and I was a little older, and Toy Story 3.
Toy Story 3 came out the year before I left for college.
Yeah, right.
So it was
like and it's one of those things that we've grown up with the series, and that can always mean something, like to future watches and everything.
But it's interesting. We were watching a little bit of the behind the scenes stuff before we started recording, and it was stuff I'd gone through because I'd combed through special features. That's why I still buy physical media. God damn it!
And I want to say that right now is that like. I think we didn't even say on the Ben-Hur. Ben-Hur, of course, goes on the shelf. This definitely goes on the shelf. Like
already there, baby.
He's already got it, and that kind of says it all, doesn't it? Is that's our rating for it? Is get Toy Story right the fuck now, because it does reach into your
But what I like about the first one, and what helps me go back to it, is that it still has like an edge to it. That as much as I like the sequels, start to get sanded off as you go along. Like we were joking about it. Like Woody in the first film is a prick.
He's an asshole.
And it's the best. It's so much fun.
It's so funny because like he like several times says like Buzz should die, like several times, and you're like, Jesus Christ, Woody.
Do you remember the beer joke?
Yeah, hey, Lightyear.
All right, Mr. Lightbeer. You're like
calls him Light Snack later.
You're like, damn, all right.
You're like, how does Woody know what a beer is? Right? You're like, he's a kid's toy. How does he know what a beer is?
Yeah, it's so funny. It definitely marks like the difference between, and I was making a joke about this before, like pre-America's Dad Tom Hanks.
Yes.
This is like Turner and Hooch, like I'm gonna scream at everything Tom Hanks.
You are a toy!
Not the car! Get out of the car! This is like kind of pre-Forrest Gump, where like Tom Hanks, we love you, being everything.
Yes, exactly. And I think this is how one of the movies that makes him America's sweetheart, like
absolutely.
This, The Terminal, Castaway,
yeah,
and then what was the one you just said?
I said Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump. Yeah, of course. Forrest Gump is the one that I think seals the deal.
Forrest
for most
Gump,
people.
Green Mile.
Yeah, Green Mile. Yeah, exactly. The man's prolific, man. You can't like fault the guy. And even Cloud Atlas, like where you're just like, damn, he did that.
I don't know if I've ever seen like even his early stuff, like The Burbs, which I think was his first movie. I don't think I've ever really seen a bad performance out of him.
No,
I've good in bad
Splash
movies.
Is rough. Yeah. Splash is real rough movie wise, but he's not bad in it per se, and of course You Got Mail is kind of, it's a rough movie, especially now. It feels like you're like, oh my goodness.
Well, that's just Nora Ephron still trying to capture that same magic. It's just like you had When Harry Met Sally. That was it. Like Sleepless in Seattle is okay, and after that you're starting to push it.
Yeah, it's like You Got Mail is a little bit of a time capsule, and that's definitely a huge benefit to this too. Going back and rewatching it for this episode, is that it's a huge 90s like time capsule. Everything in Andy's room, everything they deal with is so 90s. Like we literally had that baby monitor, the one that like they turn on to listen. Yeah. I was like, I know that thing. That was transported back seeing that like thing. I was like,
the Fisher Price one.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit.
Which I think they actually had the branding for it. I think you could actually see the logo.
Yeah, it says Fisher Price on it. There's a couple Fisher Price like drops in this. They're like, hey, and they even say like, I'm from Hasbro.
And I'm from Mattel. Where actually I wasn't. I was actually bought out by a different company.
You're like, what's happening? I actually really love that moment. There's so many like snappy moments. One of my favorite lines in the whole movie. Howdy, howdy. Look at me. I'm Woody. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Give me that. It's so damn good.
Woody's never as funny in the other movies because he's not as much as
he's not as angry as he is.
Like him being just frustrated and sarcastic all the time is just so goddamn funny to me.
I think they're able to recapture one of my favorite things about this movie is not only Woody's being mean, but how like lost Buzz is. And like Buzz is very commanding in episode 2, Toy Story 2, but in 3 he gets back to being like completely lost, you know, like, and I think they're able to capture that again.
What helps they do the Spanish setting on Buzz,
which is great. I do love Spanish Buzz, and they do a whole short with Spanish Buzz, but I do love here when he like loses his mind at Sid's and he's like, I miss Nesbeth now.
I still say that all the time, just out of random. I will just try to have an excuse to try and replicate that cackle, that insane cackle that he does.
I know, it's one of those things that you're like, this may be Tim Allen's best performance.
It's like
it might be his absolutely best performance.
It's like that. It's like this and Galaxy Quest. It's so funny,
right? I've been watching too many Tim Allen movies, and I want to say Toy Story is absolutely like his, and the first one is his absolute best performance, and Galaxy Quest, because Galaxy Quest, it seems like he was born for that.
Galaxy
role.
Quest is great.
Yeah, you're like, he was born for that role. You're like perfect.
How do you feel about Randy Newman as an artist?
The thing is, I love this soundtrack, man. I have it on vinyl. Like,
that's my thing. It's one of those things where like I enjoy it.
I know it's a meme. I know it's a meme. Like,
but I get why it's so easy to make fun of Randy Newman. Like Family Guy doesn't nail a lot of things, especially now, but that they nailed the whole like Randy Newman just sings about whatever he sees. And it's so funny. Even as the movies go along, his songs are always just so on the nose and just explaining exactly what's happening in the plot. Like the whole montage in 4 where like Sporky's trying to kill himself and it's just like, I can't let you throw yourself away.
That's pretty good.
And then I just die laughing every single time.
I know. That's definitely the thing. Is like, I feel like Randy Newman's perfect for this. It works perfectly, but is it not meme worthy? And sometimes makes me cackle when he's like, "You somebody gonna be a little bit smarter than I
won't go sailing no more."
Except talk about a moment that'll make you cry. No more sailing, no more.
Oh like, yeah, when Buzz tries to fly and he just falls, you're just like, huh. I think as a kid I could never like verbalize why that was so sad to me.
You're like, wow, he really thought he was Buzz Lightyear, you know, like he really thought he was, you know, like, and you're like, damn, that hurts.
But it begs the question, do all toys go through this? I know people have made that joke before, like when you think too hard about Toy Story, it gives you like existential dread. But it's just one of those things where like, do all the toys like go through like this phase where they think they're actually the characters that they're based on?
Because I was thinking that too during this watch, is I was like, was there a time when Woody thought that he was Woody from Woody's Roundup? Because he's kind of convinced that he is Woody in the second one. Like he kind of gets like confused, but he's still on track. Like he's able to like get his way out of there. But
it's like, one of those things where like he feels like he's finding himself a little more. But like, did he actually have that like weird psychosis that other people snapped him out of? Is this a thing that happens with all of them? Because we established in 2 that it's not just this Buzz. Because the other Buzz comes after him and he's going through the same thing. So you're just like, is this a thing with everyone? It's interesting to think about.
It's like we could literally do a whole episode on the weird, like if you had to think about it, the weird shit that's going on in the Toy Story universe. Because like,
I can't wait for Lightyear to just end with Buzz waking up from his psychosis.
Because like the toys that lose their batteries, but they're like completely shut off when they lose their batteries. You're like, oh my god! Like you're like, holy fuck! They just lose consciousness and then snap back to
life.
You're like, I don't
wait,
like
can
that.
Toys die?
Yeah, can toys experience death? Or because like that's the scary bit about like I think it's almost brutal when Sid blows up the
Combat Carl,
which is such a great joke. I love that Combat Carl, and he blows him up, and there's like a bit of him that hits the window, and they're all like, ah! And I love that bit because it's like almost gory. Like,
yeah,
you know,
that's the thing.
You're like, holy
but you get away
shit.
with it because these are just like bits of plastic and rubber.
But it makes you be like, is that toy dead or is he just in 1,000 pieces?
Yeah.
Because then they kind of go further with that, with Sid putting toys together. And then you're like, so are all these toys' consciousnesses melding?
Or are they
when they're
all
put
just
together?
living a weird half-life?
Yeah, you're like, what the fuck? And like, do they become like Tuvix from like Star Trek, where they're just like one creature now, but like two consciousness? You're like, what? It's like Firestorm. You're like, what's going on?
It's so weird.
It's too much. It's too much.
It's one of those things where like you just
and none of them speak because they've been traumatized, you know, by him. You know, like you're kind of like, oh my god, this is dark ass shit. You know, like you're like,
which is why the comeuppance is deserved, I guess.
That's the thing is, I also want to bring that up is Sid a bad guy? The man's making art.
No,
Sid's
just a kid.
He's an asshole to Andy and his sister, but like not in like a really bad way, other than he does steal toys and then explode them or take them apart. Like,
yeah,
that's definitely a bad kid. Like, no question. But was the kid trying to express himself? Yes.
I'm pretty sure that's
punish
something
him for expressing
That's
himself?
Something John Lasseter brings up.
Yeah.
Like when you watch behind the scenes stuff. I think it's actually in the commentary. She's like, I don't think Sid's actually the bad guy. Like he's just a very artistic kid. And you're like, I mean,
yeah, right. And he's doing the same thing as Andy, where he's like playing with them, but he's exploding them. And you know, he's like really into his toys, and he's able to like take them apart and put them back together. And you're like, those are some really well done pieces of art you got there.
So there's
Sid.
something to be said about how many explosives this kid
you're like,
his hand on.
holy fuck. You're like, what kind of world is this? You know, like, I do think that also it's funny. There's a few like sponsorships in this movie, like, you know, Hasbro, like Fisher Price, but also U-Haul. And you're just like, you're like, but we just have Pizza Planet and Combat Carl, you know, like you're like, so we couldn't do some of these things we could have, but other things, no, we can't.
I'll forever begrudge Pizza Planet for looking like the coolest place on earth that didn't exist.
Oh my god,
it looked better than a Chuck E. Cheese.
It looks way better than I almost want to talk about that. Is that like Pizza Planet looks too bomb to exist?
Yeah.
You know, like and if you, it's like it's one of those things that like. Every arcade I've ever been in, even Chuck E. Cheese's, are definitely not that cool. You know, like not, you know, not like even adult like barcades aren't that fucking cool.
Never.
You know, like, and it's like, damn, this is crazy.
It
and
also
that pizza looks
also
good.
Little quick side tangent. I was so upset in Kingdom Hearts 3 when they finally started doing Toy Story shit that you don't go to Pizza Planet. You just go to like a big like mall basically, so there are a bunch of different outlets that you can explore. I'm like, I mean, it's kind of cool, but it would be really fucking cool if we could actually go to Pizza Planet. Though you know what I want.
You know what I want. What do you want? Oh, how do you feel about? I haven't asked you about Kingdom Hearts 4. How do you feel about the new announcement of Kingdom Hearts 4?
Mostly indifferent.
Yeah, like 3 was kind of like.
I'm not against it. I'm not saying I'll never play it, but I'm just like, I mean, we'll see.
We'll see. It's like I only played 1 and 2, so I would need the PS5 to play 3 and 4. You know, like so.
And
it's
you
like
have a lot of games in between, and do not try to skip because you will be lost.
And I'm not going to play it on the Switch. Cloud version. I hear it's ass.
There's
when
literally
I played the demo, it was okay.
There's literally no reason. At least like the first 2 compilations, those are old like PS2 games. You could play those on Switch.
Yeah,
I get like, 3. You know, big boy games, PS4 games. But still, it'd be like it's weird.
And look, you know, I got a hardline connection, so it wasn't terrible. Trying to try it out, but besides the point, I also agree that like when they started to do Toy Story, I was like, oh yeah, and then it was kind of like, oh, not done.
It's cool. That is one of my favorite worlds in the game, and the location they picked is actually cool, but it's just like, man, I want to go to Pizza Planet though.
I want to go Pizza Planet. The thing I will give is that I think that they did a good job of. I know this is such a tangent, but Roxas, it's like a combo of Roxas and what's his name? who's the main character in fucking Kingdom Hearts?
Sora.
Sorry. So it's like definitely the new model feels more like a combo of the two, you know, like where where it's like before Roxas, you were like, how did Roxas come out of Sora? You're like,
I'm
how the
not
fuck
huge
did this happen?
on like them
know,
going a little more hyper realistic though.
I'm not against it because they're obviously gonna go in the Star Wars direction for the realism stuff. You know, like I saw that there might be Star Wars in the next one, which you're like, that's cool.
I want neither Star Wars nor Marvel shit in a Kingdom Hearts game. I really don't want it.
I'm pretty damn sure that's the next one, bro.
You already have so much shit that you haven't adapted or had adapted poorly from the actual just Disney stuff, and now you only just started doing Pixar. You don't need fucking Marvel and Star Wars.
Star Wars is coming, dude. There definitely was an AT-AT Walkerfoot in that trailer, and I was like, yep, Star Wars. They're doing Star Wars. I was like, oh, okay. But besides the point, that definitely just a hilarious movie that's able to like actually really pull at your heartstrings several times.
Oh yeah,
like, but also, I think also inspire you, because I was saying it like traumatized kids, but it also filled a lot of kids with a lot of ideas, you know, like that their toys were alive and they were doing things when they weren't around. And like that filled a lot of kids with ideas, you know, like it's kind of one of those things that like, it's like one of the great things about movies is that they can inspire.
Yeah.
You know, like not only do you like see a great piece of media, but you go home and you think about it and you
sometimes
play about it
and sometimes
and
it's a little
write stories about it, stuff like that.
Sometimes when it's a little scary, it just helps to have it stick with you.
Yeah.
Think about how many kids grew up watching Watership Down and they only remember it because it was disturbing, but
they're like, what the fuck?
But you remembered it, didn't you?
I was like, when we were
like
gonna do the
Littlefoot's
IMDb top 250, I was like, okay, time to watch Watership Down. I was like, here we go. And then I was like, no, okay, we're gonna wait on that.
Good book, good movie.
Good movie. Okay, it's on HBO, so I was like, here we go. But now I was saying earlier that like it doesn't look as good as it did, and there's definitely an art style to it that still prevails, and I don't think this movie will grow old, you know, like where it'll feel like, oh, that one just looks like ass, you know, like they made sure every shot looked good. It just doesn't look as good as they can do now, obviously, which you're like, that's crazy, you know, like, and I think they kind of do that in Toy Story 4, where they, instead of like remaking Toy Story 1 in the new graphics or something like that, which would be kind of blasphemy, they were able to like redo a scene, you know, like redo like a part of it, like, you know, like, and that made you feel like, cool, this is how it would look if we had that era.
Yeah, preserve old movies like warts and all, because it shows as far as...
a progression.
As far as film history is concerned, like how far we can go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I don't care. I don't care about the unfinished blue screen and like the bad matte paintings in A New Hope.
Yeah,
they're there.
Right.
That's how they work.
They're there. That's the way it works. You're like, that's totally fine. I don't need them replaced, you know, with fucking weird CGI. You know? Like, I'm glad I hope they never do that with Toy Story. Just try to redo it completely. Also, rebooting Toy Story would be a really bad idea, too.
I feel like...
I think you could just continue with Toy Story 4. Prove that you could just continue if you want. Like, you don't need to reboot.
I'm still just like, stop pushing your luck.
Yeah.
Because like, one, it's already so hard. Ooh, doggy. Just saw a dog walk outside. It's already so hard to make a good trilogy.
Yes.
So when 4 was announced, it's just like, don't push your luck. Don't fuck it up.
Don't do this.
Don't fuck it up.
Don't
3 had such like a good ending to just leave it alone. And you're just like, okay, 4 was good. Now really, cut it out.
Cut it.
Which is also the state of the Rocky movies right now. I know you're making Creed 3. You shouldn't, but I know you're gonna.
Yeah, you know you're gonna. It's one of those things where, exactly. Creed is the best example where you're like, that was good. Please don't fuck this up. Please don't. Stop.
Just leave it alone.
Leave it alone, guys.
I guess the whole like Lightyear thing is probably the best way. If you really just have to do something Toy Story related, I guess making a spinoff about the Lightyear lore.
I hope it's
itself.
Good.
Sure.
It's one of those things that I hope it's good. I'm sure we'll do an episode on it if we see it, if it's worth seeing. So my thing is, of course, any big budget sci-fi is good. You know, like even with my hatred of Halo, I'm like, good, more sci-fi in the world. Good. Yeah. You know, like where it's one of those things where like fantasy and sci-fi are so as a genre are pushed down in media.
All I'm saying is that we just need like more.
More.
If you're gonna do like a Lightyear story that's actually about like the Buzz Lightyear story that's played straight, then I want the Woody's Roundup Western that's played straight. I want the Rex legal drama about Mattel
drama.
about his little third-party company being absorbed by Mattel. I want like straight up Aaron Sorkin political drama about
that'd
it.
be ridiculous. I would absolutely watch the Woody's Roundup like actual movie
Western,
like Pixar doing an actual Western, kind of like taking on Rango as like the animated Western.
Yeah, because it's like the one.
The one.
And Rango's really good.
American Tail. American Tail's sort of a Western.
That's true.
And I would say it's a hard pick because Rango's good. It's got some meme moments, but it is like comparatively American Tail, it's like I know some people are looking at me like, what the fuck? American Tail's a real movie. And I'm like, no, Rango's a real movie.
Yeah, Rango's good. American Tail has like a mix of like it's a Western, but it also has like a lot of noir stuff about it.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely a genre blender.
It's funny.
But the kid's literally in a cowboy outfit.
Yeah, right. You're just
the sequel is called Five Goes West. So
it gets even more Westerny. I was saying that I had a Woody, and one of my favorite parts was that like his head in the movie looks a certain type of plastic, and then you like touch the toys, and it was like, oh. It's the same.
You know exactly what that type of like rubber.
Right. You know what that feels. And I think that's one of the things that like you were saying that will age well is that they were able to like capture the feel of the textures without, even though they couldn't like fully get it right. They get like
they can do plastic and rubber and silicone and all that stuff. They just couldn't do human skin. Like Sid works only because he's supposed to look creepy.
Yeah, right.
But like Andy's dead eyes,
and that every kid is just Andy with a different shirt on. You're just like, oh Lord. But that's besides the point.
Or his sister.
Because like really, there's a lot of great character design in this movie. I think that's another thing to point out here is they are making up their own toys here, and they've done such a good job that you want every one of these toys, you know? Like,
mostly.
I've never heard of a Slinky Dog before, but Jam, it looks like a classic toy. Like, you would have that
The only one I can think of that was actually like an established thing was Mr. Potato Head.
No, well, Mr. Potato Head, Speak and Spell.
Yeah, and you have the Etch and Sketch too as well.
Sketch. Yeah. Like, there's definitely some things
I'm talking about like the main...
Yeah, the main
more
guys.
prominent characters. You're like, really, Mr. Potato Head?
Absolutely bought an Etch a Sketch because of this movie. I didn't want an Etch a Sketch before, and then I remember as a kid being like, "That was cool."
And then you actually got an Etch a Sketch and realized how fucking difficult.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh damn, no, I have got this." I was like, "I don't got this."
I know they said they wanted to get like the license for Barbie for this one, and they just couldn't get it, but then they got it for the second one.
Right, and it worked so well, like bringing her in, you know, like, and I kind of like Bo Peep, you know, and I think Bo Peep even works even deeper in the fourth one. You know, like, and you're like, holy shit, that's crazy. They actually were able to develop Bo Peep. What the fuck?
Yeah, I went from like the end of 3 of just like, I don't care that Bo Peep's not here, to 4 just being like, truly underappreciated.
Truly underappreciated character.
What have I done?
Yeah. I also, I want to point out a couple characters that I think that are just like classic toys, but like are not an official toy, like the shark with the howdy howdy howdy. Yeah, I've had that shark. It came from like shark. I had that type of shark, and of course I had a Speak and Spell. But also it's about what's the name of the cart that they ride on to catch up to the U-Haul?
Well, his name is just RC in the movie.
Yeah. What a cool RC car, you know? Like, first off, that shouldn't go that fast. That's a fast-ass fucking RC. I wish. But they do. I mean, RC cars do get that fast, but not that type.
Now.
Not that type, you know? Like,
back in my day, we just had the Dragonfly. You remember the Dragonfly RC car? I did actually have it. I begged for like 2 Christmases in a row because I didn't get it the first time.
So funny. I definitely had the RC here as a toy, and I talk
about like a great just climactic sequence that still holds up is just a whole chase with a U-Haul.
Oh my god,
the RC car then through the air.
What's great about it is it has this great emotional through line,
Yeah.
like not to be left behind while trying to like get there, you know,
and even
like,
in terms of just sheer spectacle,
where it's not just
I
like
don't-
a chase scene.
Yeah.
It's like it's like a goal, you know, like they like able to take that chase scene and like elevate it emotionally.
and even in terms of like intensity and just sheer spectacle, I don't think any of the sequels actually were able to like really match it. Because in 2, you just have like the conveyor belt stuff.
Yeah, which I
With the
love,
airport
though.
and like chasing the plane, which is really good. With 3, you have like escaping the daycare, and then you have like the big oven where they fake you out to think, oh man, we about to kill the cast.
We about to kill this cast, you know.
And
like-
4 mostly remains at the carnival, and there's not really much in the big sequence other than Keanu Reeves being like, I did the thing.
Well, no, they go around with the merry-go-round
Yeah.
couple times, which is pretty cool, but
Ain't the same.
Ain't the same though. Ain't the same. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of iconic, you know.
Yeah.
Like it's like and Buzz gets his like flying moment, and you're just like, dang, that's fantastic, you know. One of my favorite things about the movie is how everyone still moves like a toy, you know. Is as human as they are, they still are like, or like Woody's arms spin completely because they're
Yeah.
just held on by thread, you know, like, so it's like a full 360 spin whenever he wants to, and like and even Mr. Potato Head just goes
Yeah,
around
just like
everywhere.
waddles.
And Etch-a-Sketch only walks on its like edges,
Its
you know,
corners.
like, you're just like, holy shit.
It's just that amazing
And my favorite,
sort
of course, is the Green Army Men, and
Mm-hmm.
like, and then they like when the guy stepped on him, and he's like, "Leave me be," and he's like, "They're good soldiers, leave no man behind." And he picks him up and carries
Yeah,
him
just
out.
that cute little attention to detail, like the way they're hindered by their little platforms, so they have
Yeah.
to like waddle, swing themselves back and forth. The fact that they have this interesting lore where like Woody is the favorite toy, so like he's in charge, he's the den mother, he keeps things organized.
Right? You're like he's the hero in his
Yeah.
mind, you know, like.
And with the original conceit for the film, it was going to be a little more like Woody's more just a bully who just
Yeah.
like bullies everyone into submission.
Which, of course, I think they were able to change. I think it's a
Mm.
great idea to change it around and make it more like you're on Woody's side, of course, but he's making bad decisions.
Yeah.
You know, like I think that's some of the greatest characters ever is when you're just like, oh, don't do that. You know, like don't.
Oh, Battleship. They also have the rights to that because they're playing Battleship.
Yeah,
in
they're
that
playing
one scene.
Battleship.
Yeah. So they were able to get a few things.
When they're opening the presents too, they're like, it's a box. It's a battleship. It's a battleship. Like, you know, like, fucking love them opening
Ask your
the
parents'
toys.
permission.
I love opening all
Basically.
the toys. I think it's one of my favorite scenes in the whole thing. Them waiting by the whole thing and like freaking out for every toy that's there. They're like,
I was too introverted to ever relate to like all these kids giving you all these damn
really?
presents.
Oh no, big birthdays.
No, I had friends, but it's just like leave me alone. Which, to be honest, still hasn't changed much. It's like, sure, if you want to get me something, I really appreciate it, but I don't need the attention.
Me and my brother have the same birthday, so it's one of those things.
Yeah.
That, like, it's a big celebration every time we do our birthday. It's like second fucking Christmas almost. So it's like it was always a big party in some ways, you know. Like, so it was always running around like this. I felt like I knew this party, you know. Like I was like, okay, you know, like we're at somebody's house doing this birthday party. It makes sense, you know. Like I'm like this. I get this. You know? Like, now, I do kind of love the way this plot just moves, though. I think that's another thing. It's like I think the characters are great. I think the dialogue's great, but it's the way this plot just kind of fucking keeps going, you know? Like, it just kind of keeps moving along at an actually really brisk pace. And
Trying to find a damn runtime. They never put the runtime on the back of the box anymore.
God damn it, right? They usually put it in the bottom quarter, but yeah, you're right. Feature runtime approximately 81 minutes.
There we go.
And yeah, 81 minutes is not a lot. It's
No.
really not. It's actually
Like, that's a short film.
that's a shorter film.
Yeah.
Shorter.
Yeah.
Shorter. Yeah.
not an actual short film.
Yeah, it would have to be under 70 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Like, isn't that the fucking cutoff for the Oscars or something like that? They're like, it's 60 minutes,
mean,
not a feature.
We just came out of Sonic 2. I wish it was 70 minutes.
Please go back. We'll do an episode, guys. Don't worry. Don't worry. We will have a Sonic episode, and we may be a little bit angry. But besides the point, it moves so well and introduces so much. Like, you know, like it's able to take you into this whole toy world without feeling like you're whiplashed or something like that. You know, like it's not.
Yeah.
Or it feels alien. You're like, yep, know that. Yep, I know that.
But it also doesn't feel like it's holding itself back either. Like, there's this, despite being, you know, first feature length computer animated film and like Pixar's first big foray into a feature length film.
Yeah.
There's so much confidence and just sheer creativity abound in this.
Yeah, and everyone, it's like one of the most important things that Disney does is breathe life into pretty much every fucking frame, every little movement. Everything moves so well and has so much life. It's one of those things that you appreciate in a great animated video game, where you're like, every little thing I do has like an animated thing that goes along with it, you know, like it breathes life into everything. I always bring up some of the Ratchet and Clank games because, like, of course some don't have animated stuff, and then like the newest ones, they're just like, there's like so much love in every fucking step, you know.
I mean,
like,
you want to talk about a series that like was really tongue-in-cheek and had a lot of edge to it, and then they really sanded that off over the course of the series.
Yeah, seriously.
Get me started on that one.
We'll have to do a Ratchet Clank episode at some point. But I do think that this is kind of one of those instant classics. One of those like, no question, just yup, that is a classic movie, you know. Like, I do remember I saw this in theaters in 3D because they were trying to test if they should put out Toy Story 3 in 3D. So I saw Toy Story, it was a double feature. It was Toy Story 1 and 2 in 3D, which I think these movies actually look great in 3D.
I did see Toy Story 3 in 3D.
Nice.
And I'm mostly the guy who's just like, I don't give a fuck about 3D and I don't need it. And really the only reason I did for Toy Story 3 is because those are the only tickets left.
Yeah, you're like, I might as well.
Like, fine.
Fine.
And yeah, it was fun.
And that's the thing is, I think for Toy Story 3 and 4, it adds some depth, you know, and that's what they're trying to accomplish in Toy Story 1 and 2 with the 3D versions, was adding some depth to the frames, and it works better, of course, with the newer versions. You're like, real depth in that frame, real bokeh instead of, you know, flat Peter.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and which is kind of the I think what will age this is sometimes the backgrounds feel flatter, you know, like, but I think that's one of the things, it'll just be like that, you know. Like, that's the way
and it's one of those things that sort of just kind of adds to its like old charm.
Yeah.
Because as much as we hate to admit how old we are, because the 90s were like 30 years ago, it's just like, it's not that old. It's just like, no, this is decades old now. Plural. You're like, please don't do me like
that. Please don't do me like that. Definitely one of my favorite things in this, and it's more of like the world building, is the aliens in the machine. And it's just a grabbing machine to pick up these cute aliens, which of course everyone's seen like a machine like that, where you're like, I don't even know what that character is.
Where they're all just like the same generic characters.
And I love that they're all like, you're the one, or they're like, that clan, like, you know, like,
farewell, my friends, I move on to a better place. Which again, if you think too hard about,
you're like,
you'll start screaming internally.
And I love that they feed him to the dogs, and he's like, and he's squeaking, like, you're like, no, like, you're like, poor alien guy, like, you know, like, what the fuck. I used to also have a sugar bowl that was the shape of the alien head, and you would open the fucking alien head to get sugar out. Super weird.
That does sound weird.
It sounds weird, and I think we got it at like Disney on Ice or something like that, because they somehow fit Toy Story into Disney on Ice at some point. You're just like, man, I don't know, guys. You're like, I don't know about this one. But, you know, that's Disney on Ice in general. It's kind of a big, like, I don't know about this one, guys. But some people love ice skating. I did Disney on Ice as a job one year.
Really?
It was rough. It was weird. It was, I mean, I knew the soundtrack like that, because of course it was like I already knew the Disney songs, and then I knew the whole plot, and then it was just like I knew this whole thing.
I have like family members, like one of my younger cousins has like been to Disney on Ice, and I'm just like, okay,
yep.
It's not really a thing that interests me. I've never even been to Disney World, for fuck's sake.
Oh yeah, I mean, Disney World's obviously the best.
I would like to.
It. And that's the thing, is that Disney
not for
on
lack
Ice
of wanting,
is
I'll put it
kind
that
of
way.
just a show from Disney World that they're able to like take around, you know, like where it's like the Lion King show is kind of like this in Disney World, where it's just like
I would actually love to see.
Yeah, right. It's actually really good. I've seen it several times now.
I would like to.
It's a good time because it's like a lot of really great acrobatics and like really cool stuff, you know, like. I don't think they have really tainted the legacy of Toy Story either. It's one of those things where like Cars, it was never very good, and then they've tainted their legacy super bad.
Yeah,
Incredibles 2 is not so good. You know, like
Finding Dory wasn't bad.
No, Finding Dory's not bad.
Surprisingly,
you're like holy shit.
Because I really dig Finding Nemo.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that, like, I think you're right. Doing the Buzz Lightyear movie is probably the best way to go. I mean, you could give me a Woody Roundup movie. You could give me a Green Army Men movie. I would. Yeah. First off, give me another Green Army Men game.
At least with those, it's such in like its own little bubble that even though it's connected, like if it turns out not so well, then it really affects nothing.
One of the things I do want to bring up that I think will get forgotten after a while was that, like, one of the major responses to Toy Story was Little Soldiers. I don't know if you remember. This feels like a movie that was right up your alley. Did you love Little Soldiers?
Oh, Small Soldiers.
Small Soldiers. That's it. Small Soldiers, not Little Soldiers. That's why I was confusing. I was combining some other movies.
Yeah. Okay. I have a little bit of a soft spot for Small Soldiers. It's a weird one.
It's a weird one.
But it's just one of those things where, like, I just love Joe Dante as a filmmaker. Yeah. So, like, even with his weird stuff or like his not as great stuff, like Small Soldiers or Looney Tunes Back in Action, there's always that like. But there's still that Joe Dante about it.
I love the design of the characters in Small Soldiers.
Which I don't know if you
the voice acting's
appreciate the Joe Dante-ness because you haven't seen Gremlins.
Yeah, I haven't.
Yeah,
I haven't.
The two Gremlins. Those are the two.
Is that in this list? Is that in AFI's 100? I'm sure it's not.
Even if it's not. Even if it's not,
it's time.
You just wait till October rolls
right.
around.
We'll do it. I'm still subscribed to Shudder. I never stopped that. I realized I was like, oh no, I'd never stopped the subscription. I was like,
it's so cheap.
I was like, whatever.
I'm still using it, and like Last Drive-In's about to come back, so I'm gonna start using it again.
It's time.
Yeah.
But. Pretty much. Is there anything else you want to bring up about Toy Story? I think it's got good action, extremely well animated, even for the first computer animated movie. So much life in every frame.
I think the best way I could put it is that
great soundtrack, great dialogue, great script.
I think to summate it, like us talking about it just makes me want to put it on again.
I know.
And I've seen it, right? I've seen it I just
saw it, and I was kind of like. We can pop
we should pop this in again.
We should pop this puppy in again.
Dude, this still hits.
and I think that's our review. It still hits.
It still hits.
And if you're like IGN, where you're like 3 hurt me emotionally, so that's why it's better. And you're like, if we're talking about pure filmmaking, if we're talking about not even having the fucking tools to make something and fucking molded this shit to life. Toy Story's it. This is like an ultimate filmmaking story.
A new like sub-medium.
Yeah, exactly. And basically launched Pixar, which is now like a giant
name in computer generation as far as like animated features are concerned.
Seriously. And I watched Onward the other day, and I can't believe the animation jumps, like that we've come from Toy Story, like, but you can still feel the Toy Story in all Pixar movies. I feel like moving forward, like it's still that very.
It's still the progenitor.
Yeah, it's like we want to tell personal stories about things. I mean, sometimes it's like, what if people, toys had feelings?
Yeah, people make that joke.
Yeah, they always make that joke. What if Italians had feelings for Luca?
Yeah,
I was dying at that one. I was like, you sons of bitches, you come fight me.
It was the same thing when Coco came out. What if Mexicans had feelings? You're like, guys.
You're like, motherfuckers. And I haven't seen Onward yet, but they're definitely like, do parents have feelings? And you're like, son of a bitch.
But you've seen Onward. You just don't.
I mean, Onward, Turning Red. Sorry.
Yeah, I haven't seen
Turning Red. No, Onward is like, what if instead of feelings, it's just like, what if D&D existed?
What if D&D had feelings?
Yeah, what if D&D had feelings? That's it.
We did it.
We did it, guys. We did it. But basically,
last 2 episodes, we're just cracking codes over here.
Blowing minds. We're getting deep on this shit. So, guys, put it on your shelf. Pick up a physical media of Toy Story. Yeah, it's on Disney Plus. It's not always gonna be on Disney Plus.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, movies, even though they're like straight from the first party, the Disney vault themselves, sometimes they move back and forth and they leave. And then on top of that, like, Disney Plus ain't gonna have the special features on here. Like, this sucker has like a 20-minute making of, a bunch of like interviews, a retrospective, like old footage and like storyboards that you've never seen.
This one's real nice because it comes with the original DVD's features from 1991.
As well as its own.
Yeah, and
when they put it on Blu-ray. Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's sick.
Which is rare. The only companies that tend to do that otherwise are usually like Shout Factory and Arrow.
Yes. And Criterion Collection.
Yeah.
Criterion's like, okay, well, we still got this video. Don't worry. Like they're like, we got this. Yeah, I love this movie.
And they really push it too, because even as far as like the menu to start, they're like showing like storyboards and stuff like that.
And an Etch-a-Sketch comes up and like is the loading screen for it.
So they're like, look at how this baby was made.
Yeah. Right?
I wish they had similar retrospectives for the other, because I have 2 and 3. I don't own 4 yet.
Oh, nice.
But they don't have, and I get it because this was like the first, so there was a lot of like growing pains and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff to document. But I just wish there was more like retro stuff. I want nuts and bolts stuff for like every movie I own.
I do love my Aladdin Blu-ray because it comes with some serious behind the scenes, and you're like
the whole bit where it's just Robin Williams improving.
Yeah, love that shit.
Just all the stuff that you didn't hear.
You're like, damn, like that's the reason to own these things. You know, those things disappear and forever.
Sometimes
they'll be on YouTube.
They're doing better about like when you buy it digitally, like they'll come with like some features, but it's never like the same amount of like breadth as like a collector's edition Blu-ray, where it just comes with a wealth of stuff for you to dig into. Like, I have the Alien anthology. I hate Alien 3 and 4, but the amount of shit that they have there for all 4 of those movies is just like hours and hours of footage of just like David Fincher wanting to hang himself doing Alien 3.
The one thing that I don't think we brought up yet, and is one of my favorite parts, is they animated the bloopers to Toy Story, which has become a thing in Pixar.
Yeah,
movies.
it was
like
to
animate bloopers.
Yeah, it was the credits too.
And
which is funny because they make a Toy Story 3 joke in that.
Do they?
Yeah, it was actually part of a sort of controversy because it was something that they were trying to cut out for the Disney Plus version of it. There's a joke where the prospector is talking to 2 Barbie dolls, and he's like trying to like smooth talk him. He's just like, "I'm sure I can get you a part in Toy Story 3."
Oh my god! And you're like,
which is so fucking funny.
You're like,
it's so funny, and now they're trying to like cut that one out. I'm like, no, it's funny. Stop it. Leave it alone.
He's a bad guy.
Stop trying to hide your history. Stop being ashamed of it. It happened. You can't get rid of it.
You can't get rid of it. It's still there, you motherfuckers.
Just put a disclaimer at the start and move on.
Move on. So, guys, thank you for listening to this episode. Thank you for watching. So you can see our little toys and our DVD that we hold up sometimes. So, you know, you get that added benefit of seeing these visual treats and our beautiful faces. But, you know, make the algorithm worth. Hit subscribe. There's a lot of people that watch that don't subscribe. So, you know,
subscribe.
Do that thing so that way you know when we got a new episode.
Tell us if they made a Buzz Lightyear toy by now that actually does everything he does.
I'm sure they do. It just costs $60.
Even with like Lightyear out, now's the time if they hadn't done it already. Because Lightyear is basically a feature-length version of the video game that Rex is playing at the beginning of 2. Right? It's basically
that. I was thinking that too. I was like, I did love that though, that they like include the video game, that like it that like,
which is good that it addresses it, because I'm sure a lot of kids. I mean, when I got older, once I got really deep in the video games, it was like, toys.
I know they definitely have seen cartoons where they're like, at Andy's birthday, he gets handed a Super Nintendo and then doesn't play with any of them again. Yeah. You know, and you're just like. You're like, maybe.
Sorry, kid.
Maybe.
Nothing personal.
Nothing personal.
That's it.
But that's it. Thank you guys. To like subscribe, make the algorithm work. We have a Facebook page. Yeah, we got all those things. But GalaxyGeek.com, if that's where you need to go to get like the whole hub, to get the whole thing. If you want the audio episode with the video episode, it's on GalaxyGeek.com. It's easy to find that way. Just go there. And you'll find many other things on that site. So it's a fun read. Go check it out. And then, guys, find our personal Twitter and Instagrams on Yep Frank.
Monocorrecta.
And Yep Gundam for the Gundams. They don't come to life, I think. That'd be weird. They would commit some war crimes. So it's not a good thing if that motherfucker moved.
Wasn't that one in a different spot before?
Jesus Christ. They're gonna commit war crimes.
I was about to say, like, the existential dread of a Gundam coming to life, given the lore of like the different Gundam shows.
Right? They're like
back in the trenches.
They're all like, oh my god. They just sit there staring at their like opponent all day long, and they're like, that motherfucker killed all my men.
Yeah.
Like, I will kill them. Yeah, that'd be fucking weird. But yeah, don't want to think about the implications. Toy Story gets too dark if you can think about the implications. And guys, again, if you're listening this long, thank you so much. We really appreciate you. And please check out other episodes of the show. And keep up with our AFI list. Now we won't be doing it next because we're gonna probably do Sonic.
Yeah, Sonic. Plus, we're also overdue for that second part of the Why the Last Man episode.
I didn't mean to do that, but
by the time those are done, we also have like Doctor Strange next month.
Yes,
so.
Doctor Strange. So don't worry, we'll be doing those. But the next one on the list, so you can get ahead of the game, a weird one, Yankee Doodle Dandy is 1942's Yankee Doodle Dandy. And then we'll go into a controversial one for me. It's going to take some fucking willpower for me. Watch the original Blade Runner. Yeah, I'm saying something that controversial right before the end of the episode. I'm going to cut it after saying that. Yeah, I don't want to watch Blade Runner again. Please stop it. No, I'm just kidding. But guys, have a great one. Yeah, watch Yankee Doodle Dandy. Watch Blade Runner.
Blade Runner. Who knows when we'll get to them, though.
Yeah, and then do the right thing after that. Check out the list yourself. Check it off. We're not sponsored by AFI, but it's part of the fun.
One of these episodes, I got to remember to bring my actual list to see how much I have checked off for the genre one.
I think it said 6 of the AFI had 66, so I'm still missing 40 of these. So it's going to be something for me.
Yeah.
All right. Adios.